Good morning. It's a daisy. Thank you. Okay, that's better, I think.
Hello.
Can everyone hear us? I'm not hearing an awful lot on my end. Maybe it's just because my ears are all plugged because I'm still kind of got a bit of a cold.
So give us a
going
thumbs
on.
up or say hello where you're listening from. We just need to know if folks are connected and can hear us. We're greeting you from Amarillo, Texas this morning, home of steaks and diesel pickups.
Yep.
Yep. So my mother had surgery. They moved her surgery forward. We were supposed to be on Thursday, tomorrow, and they moved it forward yesterday morning.
Yeah.
That went beautifully. The surgery went
It
well.
did. She seemed pretty happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as happy as you can be with screws in your vertebrae.
Well, and also being on all sorts of pain medications and
Right.
things. So yeah, she seems to be doing pretty well.
Yep. So we got a big subject today. One quick thing to point out.
Oh yeah.
Those of you notice anything different
yeah.
about the kickoff of the show this morning?
Yeah, we are. We have decided from here on forward that Buy Here, Pay Here Nation TV, since we really have made the move into Nation TV being it's a multimedia channel, and so the morning show will be held under that umbrella. So we'll be doing that stinger for the Nation TV before and after. It's still going to be broadcast in the on the different Facebook groups and YouTube and also syndicated. But that is from moving forward from now on is that will be part of what we do with the morning show.
Right. So just all under the umbrella. So now you'll see the stinger out there. Part of Nation
You can
TV.
probably hear like gravel. I feel like I've got a lot of gravel in my.
Yeah, it sounds a little different than normal,
yeah,
but
does.
as long as folks are hearing us, it's okay on my side. But yeah, so just wanted to first apologize for the sniffling and all this stuff. I mean, I think I have all of the symptoms on the NyQuil bottle today. I mean, all the ones they list there. So that's kind of, so we're trying not to do, and I got to share Michelle. I think our audience is ready. Michelle, when I met Michelle, when I was sniffly, she said, "Sound like you have sniffles."
Sorry.
I love it. And so many of you are welcome to use that phrase. Just know you might owe a small royalty of some kind to Michelle. As far as I know, that's her word.
Yeah.
But.
George just posted something about the $1,000 dealer doc fees for new cars.
Oh,
and
wow.
That's a pretty hot topic this morning.
Yeah.
And there was a post that was put out there by Bill Elizondo about the lawsuit right now against one of the big franchise dealers in
State of Indiana. I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think that we've already kind of addressed where we stand with doc fees. And
well, when you say where we stand, it's just one more thing about it's a topic that we've covered before. Like it's something that it's just a visibility thing, or, in politics, they would call it optics. Like, what does it look like to the consumer? And so today we're obviously bringing the conversation of trust. Our title was, trust me, I'm a used car salesman. Right?
And that the whole doc fee thing too, kind of just, it folds into some of that as well. So,
it's all part of a larger subject.
It really is.
It's part of what you can expect to hear from us on White Hat Wednesdays. We talk through these things. And I had an idea this morning throughout a poll, and I think it's one of those things where, everybody's out there trying to survey customers, and we're trying to learn, and we're part of that. See, Emily Del Tufo said hello from Pennsylvania. She's working with us to help create a poll within IAPA that will survey both dealers and their consumers. So we hope to learn more on this that, is more specific to these kind of things. But I think for today, I just want to know, it's a hard thing to prove. Does having a customer trust us lead to more sales? And yes, there's lots of nuance around that. There's lots of variables, around that particular thing. But I want to just keep it simple. Just yes or no. Do we think that being trusted translates into more sales? And as of broadcast time, the results were 36-1 that yes.
Well, I mean, and you would think, okay, so you think about yourself as a consumer, that you're not going to go to a business that you don't trust the people that run it, unless you have absolutely zero other option. you're just not going to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
You can make that case about food even, but there's some purchases that you're going to make that you don't need to trust them. You're going to get in and grab the thing on the shelf. And if it is what it is and the price is agreeable, then that's fine.
Yeah.
We don't have that good fortune in our line of work. Like we
already have a disadvantage.
We have
for
a
the
stigma.
most part.
Yeah. We have a stigma. We tend to be distrusted. And so certainly, we recognize the folks that are tuned in to social media, and certainly people in success and the people that we meet at the conferences. Those are the dealers that are out there, striving to do things right, whatever the definition of right might be. But they're certainly trying to do that. And they're striving to be trusted. And I think for me, coming from first retail business, I was in the retail business and sporting goods business before I ever got in the car business in 95. And then a couple of years in the new car business, salesperson, sales manager, I was highly certified. Like I want to say my CSI ranking or ratings were like 98, 99%.
CSI ranking.
CSI was customer satisfaction index.
Okay. I was good. It's not like the show Crime Scene Investigators.
Right.
It's the CSI. Okay.
So it was a customer satisfaction score that, every new car purchased, the survey went out.
Yeah.
And so I was highly rated, but I also didn't do as much volume, which is part of what kind of begs this question. I'm quite sure that the approach that I was using was going to lead to more satisfied customers and a more consistent flow of customers over time. Like I was going to earn more trust, and I was going to get more repeat and referral business because of the trust that I established as a salesperson. And so while my volume, I certainly met people that were far more talented and sold more volume, than I did, but they tend to have a lot of what they call heat cases, a lot of unhappy customers. Why? Because they oversold them or promised them something that, then they didn't deliver. And so you had a lot of unhappy customers. You had more sales, but you had a lot of unhappy customers. So I think in Buy Here, Pay Here, most everybody that I talk to recognizes that we're playing a long game.
Yeah.
In Buy Here, Pay Here. We're really, customers are going to be with us for 3+ years. We're going to have an ongoing relationship. And we know that those folks who are our customers today are talking to coworkers and friends and family members.
Usually that's they're friends with your customer base as well. So
So some level of trust at the time of delivery is one thing. And then we can just further, solidify that trust after delivery by following through on the things that were said. And we talked about this some in a recent broadcast. Is like, it's one thing to say it on the day of delivery and tell customers that you're going to take care of them, that you're going to be there to back up your warranty or whatever that looks like. And then it's another thing to actually do it, to actually be available and to follow through and do exactly the things that you promised at the time of delivery. And that's where you cement or solidify the trust that you hope you have started to create. So I had a fun conversation with Jack Carter. Many of you know him, is involved in leadership and long time dealer out in Georgia. And he said, absolutely. In that poll, he said, absolutely. I work very hard. I will do about anything to defend my reputation. So I asked him, I said, it's a tough question, but like, what is it that how is it that you can be so confident that trust, having a level of trust with your consumers and having a solid reputation translates into more sales? So I haven't seen his answer yet. And I think I would just pose the same thing to all of you. 36 out of 37 so far have said, yes, it does translate to more sales. How do you know? Like what can you point to?
Yeah.
That really translates into more sales. And I think we're trying to just make that case. I think we all generally understand that's true, but
I would kind of like, from an outside observer, I would say that a lot of that would be about what kind of repeat, what kind of referral, what kind of volume are you getting from those? Because that to me is, you're not going to get referred.
Yeah.
You're not going to buy again from someone who you don't trust. And so I think that I would think as a consumer, that would be one of the big indicators for, as a dealer is what kind of percentage am I getting of repeat or referral business is a good thing to measure.
Absolutely. We used to track also what we called a rollover transaction, which sounds negative maybe, but what we meant was the customer steps into another car before they've finish paying off the other one.
So that would be a different differentiator from a repeat. That would
Right.
be a
So that customer
okay.
who chose to roll into another car before they ever finished paying off the other one, we track that stuff very closely, and we had very good numbers on that. So that's certainly an indication of why it would translate into more sales. Because in our case, it's one thing to sell. You know, there are a lot of dealers that understand this quite well. It's like, it's one thing to sell, you know, a volume. It's another thing to keep the customers, you know? And so there's two ways for us to grow our portfolio. One is to, you know, sell more cars and create more contracts. Another is to reduce our charge-offs and the kind of the attrition from payoffs and lost customers. So, you know, I guess we can say three with that list, but basically it's just a question of, so how do you do that? How do you create trust? Well, obviously, first it would be to be true to your word, follow through on the things you promise, and resist the temptation to oversell, you know, in the interest of creating volume. So we should stop and say hello. I know I saw a hello from far west Texas. That's going to be probably the Lubbock or El Paso area. And then I got Cesar. Cesar is West Texas, and then GR Moore is Corpus Christi. So good morning to you guys. Jennifer Finlay in Florida. So I think,
how do we do it? I mean, because you know, I think that there's one thing to when you say being true to your word, and so to me that holds, don't overpromise. And if anything, equal promise or under promise, so that you can blow them away with what it is that you're willing to do. I mean, be supportive and let them know you're going to be there to support the customers, your customers, and our customers. But it's you know, being able to actually deliver. So don't overpromise. And that's one thing that I've observed as we've worked with a lot of different dealers, is that when you have someone that comes in that has a long history of sales, I've worked franchise, you know, I had the best numbers. I mean, it's very, very beautiful trappings for a dealer who's looking for someone to come in and help them. Because it's like, oh my gosh, I need X amount of sales a month, and this guy, he can deliver. Well, or girl, this person can deliver, and that what I've witnessed is that there's a lot of times this level of, I'll say anything to get the sale. And saying anything to get the sale frequently equates to overpromising.
And it's one thing to have an unhappy customer in a retail cash transaction where the customer bought it, contract signed, they own it. Like, it's a pretty straightforward deal. Obviously, in Buy Here Pay Here, we have an ongoing relationship. So when you got an unhappy customer 3 days in or 3 weeks into a contract, then that just makes for a recipe. It's really difficult. It's uncomfortable for everybody involved. And so,
and then you have a customer that comes back and it's like, well, he said, she said, he said, she said. If you've got that happening, then there's a problem. There's a disconnect to what it is that is being said.
And like I always say, just generally in business, but certainly our clients hear me say, look, we got enough challenges and problems in Buy Here Pay Here. We got enough headaches. Let's don't create our own. You know, so there are things that we can do to avoid creating our own headaches. And this is kind of in the category of one of the things we can do is let's not overpromise. So back to the ways about how do you, like, if you're working with a new salesperson, you got a brand new salesperson, how are you going to train them? And what, you know, ideally you bring in somebody in who's not necessarily, well, I say ideally, we recommend, we like working with clean slate people with sales for Buy Here Pay Here, because we don't think of them as salespeople. We think of them as more customer advocates, customer service. And so we train them to do the part that we want to do. So obviously you're starting from a clean slate. It's a little easier. And we've got some clients in that position now who, you know, have followed that recommendation. They've hired some people that are, you know, brand new to sales and the Buy Here Pay Here space. So it gives us a chance to train them, you know, to do certain things. So certainly among the very first things, and you heard me say this to our clients, new hire the other day on the meeting, is like, the first thing is just listening. Like, you really just want to try to be the customer's advocate, because you can better solve problems when you can identify the problems, listen actively.
Well, which is hearing.
Right.
And so what does that mean when you're listening active? Well, active listening is hearing. So how does someone feel like they're actually being listened to? And, you know, one of the things that I've dealt with them in my career in the past as having customer service reps that would have people call in that would have a problem or whatever. And it's parroting is one way to do that. It's like, as you're listening and you're asking the questions, what do you need, that you parrot? Okay, so this is what I'm hearing you say. And then you repeat the things, and that really does help people feel like you're listening to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you can repeat what they have to say, and then you can come up with okay, so based on that, here's what I think.
Or I have a follow-up question so that because that ties into something else I'd be striving to do. And you just do this naturally when you're listening and you're trying to solve the customer's problem. Then as you listen and you ask follow-up questions, you're demonstrating to them in a very clear way. They hear you asking those questions and they conclude that, oh, this person really has my best interests in mind. They're not just trying to sell me their most aged unit on the lot. You follow? So it's like, forgive me, I'm trying to jostle a throat lozenge cough drop. So I think we're really just trying to make sure that the customer can see in our dialogue. So there's other things, obviously, and we're not trying to train people on body language and eye contact, but we do know that that's a very real thing for people. We've all experienced it. So I think
we've actually talked about that in some of our addresses about how is buy here, pay here like a chicken sandwich. And it's that that eye contact and how you communicate with someone is, and that's one of the things that's taught by Chick-fil-A is that when you talk to someone, you make eye contact.
And so I'll just demonstrate, like, one of the things we teach in some of our training with working with salespeople is the idea of asking for down payment. Like, it's an important thing. We certainly, the customer wants to do as little down payment as possible. We get that. And so now the question is, as a first, one of the early things that happens in the process, we're meeting a customer. And so if I look the customer in the eye and I say to them, I know we talked about on the lot that you're hoping to get into something with about $800 down. And I can just tell you, we typically, the down payment that we recommend to give you the best chance of getting a loan approved is going to be 15%. So on the car that you've chosen, it looks like that down payment would be around $2,300. Is there any chance you could do $2,300 today? Like, that's going to increase the chance of approval. It's going to help with keeping your payments lower. And obviously it's going to save you some interest if you can do that. Is it at all possible that you could do $2,300? And you notice as I did that, I looked right into their eyes. I have nothing to hide there. Why? Because if they can do $2,300 instead of $800, it's in their best interest. So I'm asking for their benefit as much as for ours. Yes, it's going to help us with approval and it's going to cut the dealer's risk in the deal for sure. But I gave 3 reasons that it helps the customer, 3 ways that it helps the customer. So I look them in the eye and I can be trusted in asking for that. And they're not going to get upset. They might say, oh no, I can't, I might be able to do 1,000. They might come back with something like that. But I have no hesitation about asking, because I'm looking them straight in the eye and I'm asking those questions in a very, thoughtful way. And I really am doing it from a place of, this is really as much to help you, probably more to help you. Can you do $2,300? And then we land somewhere in between. But it's just an example. I think the other things for me would be, like I say, just other ways that you demonstrate that. And then I just always try to avoid the little private meeting. If we most of us have bought a new car at some point in our life.
Oh my gosh, that's the thing I hate the worst.
Don't you hate it?
It's like, yeah.
It's some level of distrust. You go in to buy a car and the salesperson disappears from the desk and goes to the sales manager's office, and maybe you can see them through a glass or maybe not. But what does it look like? It looks like they're in there conspiring and strategizing against me. They're talking quietly where I can't hear them. And if I were managing as a sales manager, those conversations would happen at the desk, like at the where the customer is. I would come out from the desk, sit with the customer and the salesperson, and we would talk through it. There would be nothing, there would be no conspiring behind closed doors or, behind some glass where they can't hear me. Those conversations are very transparent. It's all in the interest of, we're trying to figure something out that works for you and for us. So why would we be, hiding that? So I think it's just, it's one of the things that we can do specifically to help, maintain a high level of trust with the consumer. And like I say, transparency goes a long way. We streamed a little deal about the way elements, the things that we feel like are part of that. Transparency is one of the ways that you build trust. and just
Oh,
help.
yeah.
And then you just continue to do that. You're consistent. You're consistently transparent. You're consistently showing that you have the customer's best interest at heart. And I think it's not hard to see. It's hard to prove. But it's not hard to see how when we function that way day after day after day, why we would end up creating more customers long term.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is even more true. I've said it many times over the years. Like, I think this is even more true in the smaller markets. If you're a
Oh,
big city, if
absolutely.
you're in a
Yeah.
metropolitan area and you can run new ads and see new customers
Mm-hmm.
week after week, that's one thing. But in a smaller market, at some point, you're going to run through all your customer base.
And it's a smaller market, which means that having been visiting a small town,
Hmm.
everybody knows everybody.
Yeah,
And so, you have one bad experience and
sure,
it can spread pretty quickly
sure.
if there's some kind of,
And look, the nature
problem.
of our business, of any kind of business, is there always going to be some level of miscommunication, right? It's been my
Yeah.
experience, and I've said this to customers plenty of times. When you're sitting with an unhappy customer, you
Mhm.
can just tell them, most times these things can be attributed to miscommunication. Let's
Yeah.
figure it out. Let's see where we went wrong. Odds are we're not facing any kind of problem that we can't solve today,
Hmm.
and so but it just goes a long way. But we know there's going to be some miscommunication, but we just know the price that we pay when you talk about a small community. Maybe you got three major employers and somebody goes to work, is grumbling about, they're upset because of the situation with their car dealer, and they tell the story about how they were oversold something and they promised this and then
Hmm.
didn't do it. And it's it's easy to see, it's hard to prove how that hurts volume. you know
Yeah.
so
It's
it's
kind of
one
one
of
of
those.
those intangibles
Yeah,
too, because you can't get George just mentioned, in some places black hat dealers would have their customers' desks bugged. Well, you
oh
can't
wow,
you can't bug a customer for when they go to work
yeah,
or when they're,
right,
on their break right after they have had a bad interaction or
sure,
something with
yeah,
with the dealer or one of the dealer's team. I
yeah,
would also say that trust, we can talk an awful lot about the front end of, how do you establish trust at the beginning, but for the customers that you have that are long term, part of that also is, yes, are you willing to follow through on helping? But yes, are you willing to follow through and be consistent on the things that you say? This is, you do this, I do this. You
yeah,
do this, I do this. You do this, I do this. And that, I think that there's a level of, when we need you to do this, we need you
hmm,
to do what you've said that you would do.
yeah,
We're willing to help you, and then be able to follow through on the helping and
yeah,
being able to follow through on the all right, well, there's a natural consequence to what it
sure,
is that just happened. And but that's also, I think, a trust thing, and that
yeah,
I think that you can still create a level of, all right, I get it.
yeah,
That you're going to help me,
hmm,
but I have to help myself
right.
too.
So I think we can start to wrap up there, but I think the thing I would try to kind of close on is this idea that trust and respect, in my experience, tend to go hand in hand. And remember, I'm
Mhm.
somebody who grew up in farm and ranch country, and so having a level of trust and respect was a big deal. And just because you got to be neighborly and you're counting on your neighbors to help you out in certain situations, whatever, or you're stepping in to help others and you earn trust and respect in the process. But I think in our line of work, how do I earn trust? Because I definitely am a firm believer that you earn it. You don't mandate it. Like if one of you dealers that's listening, if you hired me tomorrow as your salesperson and I showed up, how would I start to earn the trust of the customers coming in? I have my own ideas. I know what I would do. Now, if you hired me to be the manager of your sales team, how would I earn the trust of the sales team? I know that one of the ways that I would do is I wouldn't demand that anybody trust me. I wouldn't demand
Yeah.
that anybody respect me. I would expect to earn their trust. And the way that I would do that is by showing day after day after day that I'm in their corner,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
show up, you demonstrate, and this is true for the customer. Forgive me, emotions run close to the surface. And this is very real for me. Like
Yeah.
it's a way that we earn that by just showing up and letting them see that we are going to be the same tomorrow as we are today and that we were yesterday. And that consistency,
Mhm.
and
Showing up.
they don't ever hear
Yeah.
anything out of my mouth that's contrary to what I'm saying to them. And that's how you start to earn trust and respect. And so this is true in our sales departments too.
Yeah. And I think also about when you say that there's nothing, it's a consistent thing that's being communicated. That's one of the things I love about what Maggie does
Yeah.
with the phone training. It's like just consistency. Here is a word track,
Sure.
but it's making sure that all of the things are done and that people know and they understand that it's like we're running a business and we're here to help you, but let's go through the things and make sure that we've
Hmm.
dotted all the I's, and then they can trust that. They can
Yeah.
trust that these people really have, they have their processes
Hmm.
and that they're taking care of business and
Yeah.
they still care.
We can save for a future conversation. Like, I
Mhm.
think this whole concept of becoming known, liked, and
And
trusted,
trusted.
it pretty much goes in that order. They have
Yeah.
to know you first. Then the question for me becomes, do they really have to like you to trust you? Like, I don't honestly know the answer. I think that's generally true, but I think we can flesh that out in a future conversation. But it's like, certainly they have to first know you,
Mhm.
and then through knowing
Mhm.
you, we have to earn that trust.
Yeah.
And there's degrees of that, but I think on the day that the customer's buying a car, in that hour and a half that we spend with the customer, we can earn some level of trust through the things that we talked about here. And then we just want to make sure and continue that as we move forward. Then we just show again and again that
Yeah.
I still mean tomorrow what I said to you the day you were buying your car. That's a huge one for me, is you gotta walk your talk. So,
Absolutely. Being consistent.
yeah.
It's being consistent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same promises. Under promise.
Yeah.
Don't over promise. Be consistent.
Yep.
All righty. Well,
Let's
just before we wrap up and finish up, just a reminder that this Friday is the first Friday of the month, and on the first Friday of the month, we always have
Jeremy
Jeremy
from
back from
NIADA.
NIADA, and so I'm sure there's going to be a lot to talk
Yeah,
about.
absolutely. The whole DPG thing will be a part of the
Yeah,
subject,
yeah.
and then don't forget March 30th. We still got that on. For those of you that
Hmm.
are participating in that, my mother's surgery kind of threw the agenda off. I got to get that wrapped up and out. So, but the agenda is super
Hmm.
strong. It's just a question of who's going to sit where, and so
Yeah,
we're excited about that. So don't forget March 30th. We got that event
yeah.
coming up.
So, have yourselves a great rest of your Wednesday. We really appreciate y'all tuning in and dealing with our scratchy,
Yeah, sniffly.
scratchy sniffles.
Hmm.
So, have a fantastic day, and we will see you guys on Friday. Thanks so
Have
much,
a good
guys.
one.